A lot of people ask me that, hey Akshat, I have just 3 years of experience. Can I even get into INSEAD? The answer is yes. Okay, you can get into INSEAD. I got into INSEAD with 3 years of experience at the time that I applied. Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So today we are going to discuss the difference between US MBA and European MBA. So I have supported clients to get across both top tier US MBA programs which are called as M7s, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, etc. etc. And I have also supported candidates to get into European top MBA programs. Every year I get to work with a bunch of candidates who end up going to both places. So I stay in touch with them. I get to understand how their careers are shaping up, what is it that they enjoyed about the program versus not. So I'll bring all that understanding on today's video. So please stay till the end. I'm going to discuss some FAQs as well, which would hopefully answer majority of the questions that you have. And please comment and like this video. That would indicate to me that you would want me to continue making MBA and career related videos. So essentially, I'm going to cover 4 specific things on this video. First and foremost, I'm going to comment briefly about the brand value and the pedagogy of US MBA versus European MBA. Second, we are going to talk about cost and scholarship, that how much money does it cost if you want to study in Europe versus US, which is a more effective ROI option. Third, we are going to take a detailed look at job opportunities and visa situation across both US and Europe. Finally, I am going to answer some of the FAQs. Feel free to type in the comment box in case I miss any critical details, but I would really urge you to stay till the end. This will give you a complete analysis of the situation. So let's get started. Let's first and foremost talk about the brand value or the brand of US colleges versus European colleges. So the most frequent question that I get here is that, hey, you know what, we understand that INSEAD is a very good business school, but my neighbor has not heard about INSEAD. So why is it that they know more about Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, but not INSEAD? The reason is very simple, that Harvard, Stanford, Wharton are universities. Okay, Harvard, Stanford and University of Pennsylvania, which encapsulates Wharton, these are universities. INSEAD is a business school. London Business School is also a business school. These are not universities. So the system is slightly different. Now, of course, if you go to a school like Yale, Wharton, Harvard, these are universities. They have biotech schools, they have medical schools, they have business schools, they have engineering school, etc., etc. But when it comes to INSEAD or London Business School, these are business schools. These are not universities. Okay. So the point is that the brand awareness of US colleges is slightly more compared to European colleges because of the fact that in the US you have universities. In Europe, not necessarily universities, right? So that is one key point. You might ask me that, hey Akshat, does that actually make a difference in your career? The short answer is no, right? The reason is very, very simple, that when you graduate from INSEAD, London Business School, these are top 2 MBA programs in Europe, which are ranked higher than Oxford and Cambridge, which are universities in Europe. Now, from practical standpoint, when you go to recruiters or when you go to BCG, Bain, McKinsey or any elite company, people know what INSEAD and LBS is. Recruiters across the globe are very well aware of the brand value of INSEAD, LBS, etc. and they are very well attuned with the entire recruitment structure across the world. People who matter actually know and understand the brand value of INSEAD and LBS. If you want bragging rights that, hey, I went to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, then yeah, of course, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton are better from a brand recall perspective, right? So I hope this point is clear regarding brand value. Now let me quickly comment on the pedagogy. So usually European MBA programs are 1-year MBA programs and US MBA programs typically are 2-year MBA programs. Now, there are exceptions to these norms. For example, HEC is a 16-month MBA in Europe. LBS ranges from 15, 18, 21 month in Europe. Similarly, you have Kellogg 1-year MBA program in the US. But generally speaking, very, very generally speaking, US MBA programs typically are 2-year MBA programs and European MBA programs, be it Oxford, Cambridge, INSEAD, these are 12 months or 1-year MBA programs. Now, which is better, right? That's an obvious question here. So, of course, I can make literally a detailed video on 1 year versus 2 years. So, do drop in a comment if you would want me to do that. But just a very quick explanation here. So, the difference between 1 year and 2-year MBA program is the following. Number 1 point, in terms of 1 year versus 2 year, 1-year MBA programs are much more hectic. The reason is that at INSEAD, for example, they pack almost 80% of the curriculum that is taught at Harvard in 2 years, they pack it up at INSEAD in 10 to 12 months. So of course, it's going to be much more intensive. Speaking from my own experience, at INSEAD, I used to have classes even on Sundays, right? Not every Sunday, but on several Sundays, we used to have classes. Now, in the US, if you go and study and do your MBA, the atmosphere is much more relaxed. So if you are someone who might struggle in terms of coping up with fast-paced curriculum, go to the US. It's much more relaxed from that coping up perspective, right? So that's one. Second question that you might ask here is that, hey Akshat, do recruiters value 1 year versus 2 year MBA programs differently? I will talk in detail in the job section, but the short answer is no. For example, McKinsey hires from INSEAD also, which is a 1 year MBA program, and they hire equal numbers almost from Wharton also, which is a 2 year MBA program. So hardly any difference from that perspective. Third difference, which will factor into cost, that, of course, if you are going to a 1 year MBA program, it's going to be slightly less expensive. If you go to a 2 year MBA program, bunch of different cost features are there. We will discuss that. Fourth is the learning, right? Of course, if you go and study for 2 years, the learning will be more. Not because of the fact that Oxford, Cambridge or INSEAD are doing something wrong, but because of the fact that these programs, INSEAD, Oxford, Cambridge, are 1 year MBA programs, the time is less. So the amount of learning will be less. But on the flip side, if you combine 1 year at INSEAD plus 1 year at your job, I would argue that you would have more learning if you go to INSEAD. So drop down in the comments, which school do you like better? I would love to take a look at your responses. That do you like INSEAD more or do you like something like Wharton more, right? So give it a go. I would love to read your comments. Now moving on very quickly, commenting on the quality of the program or the quality of the teachers. Honestly, if you go to any top 4 or 5 European programs, which are top 4 or 5 European programs, INSEAD, London Business School, Cambridge, Oxford, HEC. These are typically top 5. You can also include IMD, Switzerland in it. So these are top 5-6 European programs and top 5-6 US programs. These would be Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, Columbia, Chicago Booth, Berkeley, Tuck. So these programs, if you compare the faculty level, I would argue that it's almost the same. For example, at INSEAD, I got an opportunity to actually study from Professor Chan Kim, who is the father of Blue Ocean Strategy. He wrote the book Blue Ocean Strategy, which is the defining concept of strategy so far in the 21st century. Now, similarly, if you go to Chicago Booth, you would have Dr. Raghuram Rajan teaching you. So the quality of faculty across all these elite institutions is really, really good. Okay. So the quality does not taper off, right? So please be assured that if you go to any of these schools, at least from a learning knowledge perspective, you will end up studying with world's elite professors and you will get to learn a lot. For example, Dr. Robert Schiller teaches a class at Yale University. He's a Nobel laureate who teaches an MBA class. So you will get that level of faculty and you will get to study from these type of people irrespective of the rankings of the school. Now in terms of the curriculum, honestly, the curriculum at almost all the schools are similar, right? There is not a huge difference. First point you need to understand is that when you are going to study abroad, the curriculum is going to be general MBA curriculum because MBA is a general degree. It's not like in India where you do MBA in finance or MBA in strategy, MBA in HR, etc., etc. When you go abroad, you just get a general MBA degree. You can pick up concentrations. For example, if you're interested in finance, you can take up more finance related concentrations. That is completely okay. But your degree will still be general. So that's one. Number two, all the schools abroad, be it European schools, be it US schools, they all have practical curriculum. For example, you will usually have an experiential learning program where you will do some kind of practical projects along with your class studies. Now, certain business schools, for example, Harvard Business School, have a case-based style of teaching. Now, that is slightly different. If you enjoy case-based style of teaching, you might enjoy it. Similarly, Darden also follows case-based style of teaching similar to Harvard. INSEAD adopts both a lecture format plus case style of teaching. So, really depends, but overall, be rest assured that the quality will be A1 and you will enjoy studying and the curriculum will be really enjoyable and you would learn a lot out of it. Now moving on, let's move on to section number 2, which is around costs and scholarships. So let's quickly compare the cost of studying at Oxford, which is a 1-year MBA program in Europe, versus Yale. So if you go to Yale School of Management, your approximate expenditure would be around 210,000 US dollars, 210, right? So it is slightly expensive. Now scholarships, we'll talk separately. If you go to Oxford, then your total expense might come out to be around $90,000, which is around 63 lakhs. Okay, which is approximately half of Yale. The point I want to establish through this example is very, very simple. That if you are going to European MBA programs, now because these are 1-year MBA programs, the cost or the initial upfront investment is going to be at least 30 to 50% less. As an example, if you go to INSEAD, the total expense is around 80-85 lakhs. And if you go to Wharton, the total expense is around 1.4 crores. So again, 40, 45, 50% difference in terms of total fees and living expenses combined. Second point, you need to consider the fact that there is something called as opportunity cost, right? Of studying at a 2-year versus 1-year MBA program. For example, if you go and study at INSEAD, you will only have to study for 1 year, right? And then you are back into the workforce very, very quickly and you will be making a post-MBA salary. Now, this might not look very high right now if you're working in India, right? Because your salary might be 20, 25 lakhs, etc. But people usually after graduating from their MBA program, be it INSEAD or Wharton, they make salaries, especially if they are living abroad, in excess of 120,000 US dollars easily. So that's a lot of money, right? For 1 year worth of work that you're giving up to attend a 2-year MBA program. So do consider the opportunity cost factor as well. That's an important concept to take care of. Now coming about the ROI. Now very genuinely speaking, the ROI depends on two things. One is the brand value of the school. For example, if you're going to Harvard, Stanford, Wharton or top 7 in the US plus the top 2 in Europe, which is INSEAD plus LBS, the ROI in the long term becomes super impressive, right? Why? Because if, for example, you are raising money for your startup, it helps if you are from a top tier school, right? Because the network is there, bunch of different good things. If you are looking to switch your job from, let's say, working in India to Singapore, or from Singapore to Australia, or from Australia to Dubai, it becomes easier if you are from these top 8 or 10 international schools. So the ROI from the long term is super impressive as long as you do it from a very good school either in Europe or US. In the short term, right? In the short term, because of the reasons I explained earlier, which is the opportunity cost and the initial investment amount, the ROI from a 1-year MBA program will naturally be much better, right? Now, very quick plug-in about ISB here, that couple of things that you need to know about ISB, that at ISB, fees right now is around 42 lakhs, right? Approximately. Now, this is not way far off from Oxford, that's one. But important point to note between ISB and Oxford is that at Oxford, number of scholarships that are given out are much, much higher, right? The reason is that these major brands, be it Oxford, Harvard, Cambridge, INSEAD, they get a lot of money from alums. So every year, my classmates, we also make donations to INSEAD, and bunch of other alums also do the same so that the school can support the incoming students. So this endowment fund, this fund is called as endowment fund, and this endowment fund is much bigger at universities like Harvard, Stanford, INSEAD, etc. compared to ISB. I'm not criticizing ISB, I'm just telling you a fact. And therefore, the number of scholarships at Harvard, Stanford, be it US or Europe, the number of scholarships are much higher in the US and European colleges. Now, where do you get more scholarships, US or Europe? Really depends from year to year, how much endowment fund has been collected, how many candidates are applying, bunch of different things. But generally speaking, in Europe, you get small amount of scholarships. Almost everyone gets small amount of scholarships. For example, at INSEAD, you will usually get a scholarship ranging from 10,000 euros to 30,000 euros. In US, people get big ticket scholarships. For example, at Yale, 5 scholarships are earmarked for Indian students, and they range from 50% of the entire tuition amount to 100% of the entire tuition amount. Similarly, at Oxford, there are also 100% scholarships, but those are very few for Indians. So I think around 2 they give every year. In fact, one of my clients won that scholarship. I'll link it in the description box also. Do check it out. I have done an interview with him. So you might find some insights there. So that is the scholarship scenario, that scholarships are given out both in US and Europe. Really depends from school to school how much endowment they have collected. So it's a non-differentiating factor between US and European programs. So let's move on to the most interesting section, which is the job opportunities and visa situation. So let me go point by point. Number one, it's not as if that the opportunities in Europe is better than opportunities in US or vice versa. It really is a school specific thing. For example, if you graduate from Wharton, you will get much better opportunities if you're graduating from Imperial College in Europe, right? Vice versa, if you graduate from INSEAD, which is in Europe, you will get much better opportunities than if you were to graduate from something like Cornell in the US, right? The reason is very simple, that essentially MBA is a branding game these days. So if you're going to a high ranked institute, you will get much better opportunities. So that's one. So this brings us to the question that who recruits? For example, I want to work in management consulting, investment banking, I want to work in marketing, I want to work in private equity VC. So which location should I pick? Generally speaking, both the locations are great. There are enough management consulting, private equity jobs in Europe, and there are enough private equity, investment banking, VC jobs in US, right? No difference even for Indians, right? Because as an Indian, you get recruited in London also, you get recruited in New York and San Francisco offices also, right? Is the competition going to be high? Absolutely. But if you take concrete steps, if you build your profile, if you work hard, you will find jobs. In fact, I have had clients who had no experience of working in London, but they ended up working at McKinsey in London after graduating from INSEAD. And I have had clients who went to Wharton, ended up working in San Francisco Google office, right? Without having no experience of working in the US. So essentially all the major tech firms, all the major management consulting, private equity, VC funds do recruit out of good colleges in US and good colleges in Europe. Okay. So it's a more brand issue. That's what I want to leave you with. Now there are certain special requirements. For example, if you say that, hey Akshat, I want to work with a hedge fund. Where should I go? You should go to Wharton. Okay. The reason is very simple, that hedge fund industry is very opaque and a very small industry. Now, Wharton has already built a lot of connects. So if you're graduating from Wharton, you will have slightly easier time. Similarly, if you say that, hey, my goal is to work in Dubai, McKinsey office. Should I pick INSEAD or should I pick Wharton? You should pick INSEAD. The reason again is that a lot of INSEADers actually work at McKinsey office in Dubai. You can actually find them on LinkedIn, very easy. So that becomes easy, right? So it will be easy for you to develop that network. So the point is that you must ask yourself the question that which industry, which specific job, location am I looking to work into, and accordingly pick a school. Third point, US and STEM visa issue. A lot of people were commenting when I made the MBA in US video. I will link it somewhere here, that are US MBA STEM certified? Yes. US MBAs are STEM certified. Majority of them, be it Wharton, be it Columbia, they are STEM certified MBAs now. They have explored a loophole, and if you graduate from these colleges, you are STEM certified and you get that additional OPT period in the US. Similarly, in UK, right? In UK, recently the visa norms were changed, and if you're graduating from a UK based college, for example, London Business School, again, similar to the US, you get some additional time to look for jobs. Now, what's the utility, etc. of STEM MBA, etc. we can talk separately about it. I can make a separate video. Do comment, only then I'll make it. But to cut the long story short, from a visa situation point of view, US MBAs are STEM certified, majority of them now, and UK colleges also have a STEM equivalent, so to say, in terms of looking for jobs post-graduating. Now, there are some upcoming locations in Europe, because you need to understand the fact that Europe is very diverse, right? It includes Germany also, it includes Spanish colleges also, it includes Italian colleges also. So you need to understand which locations as an Indian you should go to. So my general take on that situation is that you must ideally prefer to go to English speaking countries. For example, if you can go to Ireland, up and coming location, wonderful schools. If you go to something like Rotterdam School of Management, RSM, a lot of businesses are shifting to RSM post-Brexit. Now, I'm not saying that UK colleges are going to go bonkers, right? It's not going to happen. But the point is that new locations are coming up. Amsterdam specifically, Ireland specifically, these are upcoming locations. So if you want to study at these locations, you can definitely make a play for it, right? These are good locations. Local language requirements. So tying into my previous point, please do not pick up colleges in Spain, Italy, etc. The reason is they might be high ranked. Now I'll not take names here. They might be high ranked. But the problem is that as an Indian, you might struggle to find jobs in the local economy. So be very, very mindful, especially if you are picking a college where the local language requirements are there. Now you would turn around and say that, you know what, Akshat, INSEAD is based in France. So what is your viewpoint there? Now, INSEAD has a slightly different story. So, INSEAD has a multi-campus system. People go study in Singapore also, English speaking. People go study in Middle East also, English speaking. So, people are able to find jobs easily. And INSEAD is by far the best business school in France. So, people even get absorbed in their local economy. So, INSEAD is a slightly different case, but generally, so do not go to a school where you don't know the local language. So, that's a small rule that I'll leave you with. Now, finally, let's look at some FAQs. And these are very interesting. A lot of people ask me that, hey Akshat, I have just 3 years of experience. Can I even get into INSEAD? The answer is yes. Okay, you can get into INSEAD. I got into INSEAD with 3 years of experience and the time that I applied, right? So you can get into INSEAD with relatively less experience. It's a myth that you need years and years of experience to get into European colleges. So nothing like that. If you have around 2 to 3 years of experience, you can apply. A lot more things would depend. How you're structuring your application, what are some good things, bad things that you're doing in terms of your interview. Bunch of things depends. But Do not link it to the years of experience. Link your chances of admission to the quality of experience that you have. Second point, that can you speak about tier 1 and tier 2 colleges in Europe? So tier 1 would be LBS, INSEAD. Tier 2 could be Oxford, Cambridge, HEC, IMD. These are 4, 5. Then comes tier 3, right, which are Imperial, Warwick, etc., etc. Right? So this is how I would categorize. So the thought that I will leave you with here is that try to get into the best brand college you can get into. Now comes that concept of dual degrees. Now a lot of people are interested in doing dual degrees. I would generally advocate that if you're picking up dual degree programs, do it from Europe, because the amount of time that you have to spend away from the workforce, let's say it is less in Europe because of that 1 year MBA program concept. In Oxford, they have something called as Oxford 1+1. You can check it out. Okay, that's one. So the first point is around opportunity cost, just 1 year time spent. And second thing is the total investment is also less in Europe. So if you want to pursue dual degrees, which I generally do not recommend, again, if you want me to make a video, please comment, right? So I'll do that. But generally, if you still want to pursue dual degrees, so try to do it in Europe over the US. So I hope you found this video to be useful and insightful. I have summarized a lot of information. Do check the description box. Do check the pinned comments. I will put the links of the people whom I have helped in terms of getting into top US and European colleges. Do check out those interviews. You might find it to be extremely insightful. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please press the like button. That would mean a lot to me. And do let me know what you would want me to shoot next. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.